Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats podcast, where we talk about all things strange, unusual, and paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostest. I'm Stacie.
I'm Kara.
So, Kara, what have you been doing the past couple weeks? Anything exciting or fun? Have you been anywhere? You've been somewhere. You were to Seattle. What happened? You never did tell me what happened in Seattle.
It was just normal Seattle.
The
weather was nice. No, we went to the University of Washington campus to look at the cherry blossoms because they were in bloom.
Okay, nice. Yeah. I mean, things were in bloom here for like a day, and then
they all died.
We got a cold snap, and then it all, went to hell in a handbasket.
So it was nice to actually be able to go take photos because we Ubered there from the convention center. So I did 3 shoots over there.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then we were just in Pittsburgh this weekend for the furnace.
That's right. How did that go?
Travel.
Yeah, you have. So how did that go? Anything strange or unusual happen while you were there?
Not really, but I mean, it was so busy. I did 9 shoots when I was there, so it was just back to back to back.
Dang,
and then I had to keep
shoots
on schedule because it was an hour and a half for 3, an hour and a half for a group of 3, and then another hour and a half. And then we left. So it was just bam, 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 and then one of my friends just feeding me chicken nuggets in between while I was trying to.
Oh my.
Very briefly, I would just be give me a second, I need to go eat a chicken nugget, because, I feel like I didn't even have any time to think or process what was going on. I was just bam, 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 bam.
So instead of Scooby snacks, you had Kara nuggets.
Basically. It was just, I mean, the photos were amazing, but I was just trying to get the most use out of our time.
But it looked like it was actually sunny that day, which helped out, because it'd been raining.
It wasn't sunny, it was just
around here
partly cloudy. I know, I was scared because it was flooding 2 days before in Pittsburgh. The river was up into the highway. It was crazy.
Oh, that is insane.
So I was a little nervous about, but when we were driving there, we kept getting flood warnings on our phone. And then the Friday, because we drove in Friday and we stayed at a hotel, just in the area, so we didn't have to do the whole drive. And then we were driving home after the shoot, which was nice.
That's what I was going to ask. That's nice. I was going to ask, did you guys stay the whole weekend, or was it just one night and then you came back home?
We went Friday, and then we did a shoot in Pittsburgh on Friday. Just we went to a location I'd been to before, because it was a cool, unique location.
Wait, was it the college that we went to?
No.
Or was it someplace else?
No, we went to a place where you could go on the train tracks, and there was a bunch of graffiti.
Oh, never mind then. I was thinking of the Cathedral of Learning, where we went last time. That was cool.
It didn't really fit. We were doing Street Fighter.
Ah, okay.
So we wanted to find somewhere kind of where people would do street fighting. I don't know.
Yep.
But the location was cool. And it was nice because it was kind of secluded. But it was also hailing at some points during the shoot. So it was just interesting.
Yeah.
The weather was interesting. It got kind of warm the next day, which was nice for the furnace.
Right, yeah, definitely.
And it was overcast. And there was another event going on at the same time. So we had to fight with that kind of traffic a little bit. They were doing a paint. So people would show up in clothes, and then they were throwing paint at each other in the building.
Huh. Cool.
Have you ever heard of those paint parties?
I have, but I've never heard of them a party like that. I mean, I've heard of people doing it, but not as a party.
Because when we were doing the photo shoot, you could just hear thumping music. It was kind of interesting. Just hear the thumping music from the building next to us.
That is crazy.
And there were people being just staring at us through the gate, trying to see what we were doing.
Hysterical.
And we're just what the heck? We looked like they were on it, and we had a guide with us to keep it, make sure we weren't going into areas that were dangerous or whatever.
Yeah, because there are some very dangerous areas there where it's starting to rot and you could fall to your death. Yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah, it was fun, but it was just I feel like it was just a blur to me because I feel like I blacked out and did all the photo shoots and then we were leaving. I think next time I don't know if I do 9. It was a lot to do so many probably just do like
that
6.
does sound like a lot. Yeah, it sounds like a lot.
But I mean, with
of
the
stuff
time and like how much it costs, it's like you gotta get the most use out of your time
for the bang for your buck, basically.
Yeah, basically, because it's pricey.
Yeah, that's why last time when you did it with like
we did a
couple
group.
other photographers.
It was nice though to like have like we didn't have to like not
wait for the other group spots, to get done. Yeah,
we didn't have to wait for spots. We could just be like, okay, we're gonna go here now, or we're gonna go here, which was kind of nice. And like it wasn't the price wasn't horrible. Like everyone still paid it. Obviously,
right.
It wasn't that bad because I fully booked. So
yeah, that's good. So me and Dad last weekend went to we're in Red River Gorge for like 5 days. That was really nice and cool, except it rained the whole time and was as cold as could ever be for being in April. It was ridiculous. And the cabin we had was really cool. It had a elevator in it, but it wasn't like your normal elevator. It was made out of a hot air balloon basket. And you had to so if in case people don't know, some people don't, I am a short person, and not tiny person, but a short person. And you had to climb over like a 3-foot ledge just to get into the hot air balloon. So for me and my tiny, it was an adventure to get in and out. So needless to say, I only went up to test out the elevator one time because it was just too much work for my little old legs. So we had that. And then on Saturday, when the rain finally stopped, we went on one of the more popular trails in the Red River Gorge called the Rock Bridge Trail. We went on the Rock Bridge Trail, which was a really cool trail. I highly recommend it, but I will warn you, don't go there right after it rained because it was very slippery. And don't go on the weekend. It was very extremely crowded. Of course, it didn't help that it had been raining for 4 days, so people were itching to get out and get hiking. So like everybody and their grandma was like on this trail. It has a lot of steps that are very steep and very slippery when it rains, just as an FYI, because I almost killed myself several times on this trail. But it was a really neat trail. There's like a couple of caves that you go past while you're on the trail that you could definitely go and explore or look at if you want to. I don't know how deep I'm sure they don't go that deep, but they were there and you could do that. But like I said, it was so rainy, wet, and it was so crowded that we just stuck to the main trail for the most part. There's a really neat waterfall on the trail too, which is really cool. And it helped that it had just rained because it was, flowing at full force. There's also like a little beach area that you could technically, in the summertime, I hear it's very crowded in this area, and you can go wading in it, and a lot of people do. And there's like a big sand area there because the kids were playing in the sand because it was a nice day. It wasn't super warm. It only got up to like maybe the mid 50s, but it was still nice enough that the kids could. Yeah, I know it was cold. Don't get me wrong. I had on my winter jacket. It wasn't like I was running around in a sweatshirt or anything like that and shorts. I had on jeans and my heavy winter jacket. But there were kids that were playing in the sand, of course. And then you come across a natural bridge. It's one of the only natural bridges in the United States that actually has water underneath of it, which is really cool and interesting. So we got to do that. And you could also climb on top of the bridge. I, however, am an older person, so I declined from doing that because I also have horrible experiences of falling from things. So I did not feel like breaking a hip and having to be airlifted out of this particular area on that day. So I chose not to. But however, if you're more young and limber like Kara, you're more than welcome to try and climb on it, as I'm sure she will be, because she's going to be going there next week with her group of friends. So
yeah, it's supposed to be hot hopefully down there.
I hope that the weather is nicer for you guys than it was.
I'm like, can we?
What?
Yes!
Are you kidding me? No. Meanwhile, we had 32 degrees on the one day was like the high, and it was snowing when I looked outside. I mean, we're talking like snow, and I'm like, you're kidding me, right? The weather was crazy there.
I feel like we had good timing for our vacation because we looked at like a few different weeks in April. But
yeah. But normally we never have these issues. We go to Gatlinburg and it's like 80 degrees down in Gatlinburg, and meanwhile here it's like 30 degrees. But Not this time, because we just chose to go someplace different. It rained.
That cold front.
There's not a lot of restaurants either that we could go to eat at, which is like, or shopping. I'm like, how do these people like get clothes? Because there was no like, Walmart or anything where we were in the location where we could go get clothes. In fact, our cabin we were in was like on an old logging road, and our little cabin, they had like a note that said, oh, by the way, if you want to walk around on the old logging trails, you're more than welcome to. Meanwhile, there's signs all over talking about bears and that, and they had to have like bear trash cans to keep the bear, because apparently they have a problem with bears there. I'm like, oh, wonderful. So, but no, it was really nice there. It was neat from the part I got to see. I want to go back because Natural Bridge was in the area. It was like a couple miles down the road, but we didn't have time due to the rain to go see all that, so we're gonna have to go back and explore that.
Yeah, so we might go to Mammoth while we're there too.
Yeah, Mammoth Cave is cool.
But
yeah,
it's like 3 hours away, but we wanted to we're gonna be there for a whole week, so we have time.
Well, yeah, but when you're only there for a couple days,
I know you guys were only there for
silly.
A few days.
Yeah, it would be silly for us to drive to Mammoth Cave, but
if we have a whole week and we're like trying to find stuff to do,
that's definitely I definitely see you doing it. Well, that'll be fun. Yeah.
And then just, the other stuff that you do around there. Hiking.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, also, if you have
what happened on yesterday?
Lived under a rock. Well, based on, this comes out on Friday, but today we're recording on the Tuesday, which yesterday was the solar eclipse. The Great American Solar Eclipse.
I know. It was awesome.
It was a total eclipse. We both lived. Well, you lived in the totality.
I lived in the actual totality.
I had
it was
to
cool.
drive
We
to
only got a minute and a half, but it was still cool.
I mean, she lived like 15 minutes away, so it wasn't like a big deal. But she was just barely in, so I didn't have to deal with any traffic, which was nice. I remember I saw Jake's text.
Oh my gosh!
How did he?
Why did he
not leave early? I don't understand. I left 2 hours early because I was paranoid.
That's Jake. He likes to dude, I don't think you understand. He barely got his car parked before the actual eclipse, like the whole covering. Yeah, the total eclipse happened. That's crazy.
I know. I think I arrived at my friend's house at 1 p.m. and nothing really started till like 2:30. So I just was like, I didn't have to drive that far. Well, he didn't have to drive that far either, did he?
No, but listen, where we live in, they call it a tri-state area because 3 states touch all in this area. We're like Lawrenceburg, Indiana, Cincinnati, Ohio, and Kentucky, like Florence, Kentucky, and all that. So we have so people can just zip across any one of those and be there in like less than 20 minutes. But our middle child, Jacob, didn't leave his house, which is, by the way, only 20 minutes away from where we live. He did not leave right away. And when he did leave, it took him 2 hours to get from his house to a park that's maybe 2 minutes away from our house, where they were having like
Why would he go to a park?
I don't know. I told him he could come to our house and come watch it.
Go to your house. That would probably be like way easier.
He has a nice bathroom and everything, and he could have taken the back road in. But no, Jake had to make it difficult. He wanted to go.
I mean, if I lived closer, that would have been where I would have went if I wasn't in. I just went to a friend's because it was convenient. I didn't have to go that far.
Right.
And fight
I don't know, because your
crowds.
brother makes the life ridiculous for himself, I guess. I don't know. I could have told him the park was going to be crowded because
that's
everybody
where
and their grandma was trying to exactly.
That's why I said,
and thank God it
who's
didn't
going to
rain.
go to a random suburb in Columbus?
Right. I know. But anyway, so.
It was kind of funny though, because where we were, like the neighbors were all outside. We were all outside.
Oh yeah, they
standing.
were here too. The
funny.
Whole neighborhood was outside. People clapped when it finally covered the thing. And we had people lighting off firecrackers during the minute and a half of darkness.
Oh my God.
Yes.
What the heck?
Yeah, there was fireworks going off. It was insane.
We didn't have that, but we did have. It was interesting to see everyone out standing in there.
It was. It was
yard,
almost like COVID
it.
Again. It was kind of, you know what I mean? It was kind of weird. Where
it was
everybody
a weird
was
sense
all
of
together.
community with everyone.
Yeah.
It was out.
Yes, it was. Yep.
Because we sat outside on a blanket in our backyard.
Yeah. We sat in the front yard because you couldn't see it because of the way the sun was. You
it was easier to see it in the back
with the house in the way. Normally it would be easier in the back, but for whatever reason, it was in the front this time, so we had to go sit in the front. But it was really neat. It was really creepy when it got totally pitch black,
it was weird, but it
in
got
the middle
cold.
of the day.
Like, it got really cold.
It did get cold. Yes, and the birds stopped singing. It was very weird.
It was very ominous.
We had a tree that was blooming, and there's a ton of bees on it.
Yeah.
But as soon as it got dark, they all went away. It was insane.
Yeah,
and
there
was
came
bees
outside on dandelions in their yard because they had a bunch of dandelions.
It was crazy. But it was a really neat experience. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, because I didn't have to go anywhere, so I was like, that's gonna be But it was actually really cool and really
it was so
neat
weird
to see.
When it like actually like the actual totality, like looking at it, it looks like not what I expected. Like based on the photos I saw, it's weird like seeing it with your like naked eye.
Yes. Did you see the weird like orange cigar looking thing sticking out of it too when it was during part of the totality or not? There was like an orange, like, I don't know. It's hard to explain.
It was like the flare thing. I know, because my photo captured it. That's why it looked like a diamond.
Right, yeah. And everybody was carrying on about your picture.
I know. I like that you posted
about
my picture.
Being a diamond ring.
No
I know.
context.
Everybody's like,
and then I was like, it looks like a diamond ring.
Yeah, Kara actually had her camera, and it came with her glasses that she got for the.
They came for a little filter. So I just put it on my phone, and if you zoom in, and you have to like hold it. I had to hold it down so there was no other light getting in. Otherwise, it looked weird. But then I was able to take a pretty good. Well, this was before actually. You can actually take photos of it while it's normal.
No, yeah.
Like that photo I took was during totality, but the second photo I took with the crescent was with the filter.
Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, we took photos during the totality because you can.
But because the one I got
your
was
eyes
really
aren't going to bleed. But yeah. But yeah, it was funny to see. It was really neat. Like I said, it's so crazy how dark it got. I've never seen that before.
I went to a restaurant after to on my way home to get some food, and I heard them talking about it inside, and they were like, there were no cars on the road. It was eerie. Like everything stopped. Like everyone pulled over to watch. They said it was really spooky.
Creepy.
No one came through the drive-through or anything at that time. So
that
was kind of
weird.
Cool. I was like, oh, because I think the last time we had one was 2017, or the one that we could see.
Yeah, but it wasn't a very good one.
No, it wasn't totality, but I still remember going outside because our work had like a pair of glasses, and we were able to like go see it. But I think it was like 70% or something.
I remember the leaves, like, you know what I mean? You could see the shadow of the leaves, and you could see like little crescent
like crescents. It's really spooky,
that was really neat. Yeah. So that was really cool yesterday. Hopefully everybody got to experience it a little bit, or you drove somewhere where you were actually in the path of totality.
Well, if you're
it
in
really
that
does
area,
make a difference. Yeah,
like my friends in California or Seattle couldn't really tell at all.
Right. Yeah.
But if you were on that side or anywhere near it, I feel like it really is worth it to go to that 100%. Because I was in the 99% my house, but I went the extra distance because I was like, everyone's saying it's worth it. I think it was worth it.
I feel like it was worth it too to be in the totality.
And it was nice to like be with someone too. I wasn't by myself at home watching it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it definitely made a difference being with other people.
Like
I said, our whole neighborhood was outside. It was really cool. And our neighbors were out, so we were chit-chatting with them for a few minutes and stuff. It was neat.
Yeah, I don't know. It was
kids were running around. You could hear the kids gushing about it. It was really, it was kind of cool. Not gonna lie. All right. So,
that brings us into our topic. Because we're going to talk about some of the Eclipse lore and like what people, like folklore, like what other people believed was happening. Because like obviously we knew, but I could definitely see how it would be very scary if you did not know what was happening and like experienced everything. Like the temperature changed and the light, like looking at like just like outside, it looked weird. Like it looked very creepy and off.
Even going up until full totality. Remember?
Yeah, it was just like spooky looking.
Yeah.
Like
it would get gradually darker and darker and darker. Yeah. Yeah. I could see why the Mayans might want to dump somebody in a volcano. So, the god of sun comes back or whatever, or Ra, or for the Egyptians comes back. But I could totally see them freaking out about that.
Yeah, so before we truly understood what an eclipse was, they were seen as bad omens by a lot of societies. And
I can see
there's
that,
also
the end of the world, end times.
Different cultures, they would kind of see it as something eating the moon, the sun.
Oh,
which
okay.
was
Interesting.
There's a crazy amount of stories of beliefs like centered around that idea of something eating the sun and then spitting it back out.
Mm-hmm.
Some of examples. So basically, eclipse in Chinese literally means to eat, which is interesting. And it was believed that a celestial dragon would attack and devour the sun. And then the only way to scare off the dragon, they would start making loud sounds and noises to try and scare it away. Which is like a recurring theme that people think that loud noises scare it away, which I guess, I mean, because eventually it does go away, so they would kind of be like, oh, well, this worked, so let's keep doing this. In Vietnam, there are stories of a giant frog swallowing the sun, and then the frog's master has to, like, get it to spit it out. Which is interesting. Okay. I was like, that's a weird one.
Yeah, that is weird.
Japanese mythology believes there's a god of darkness, Batar, that swallows the sun, and to release the sun, they must offer sacrifices, and they will beat loud drums.
Oh, all right, cool. And what
really
type of sacrifices are they? Like human sacrifice or something else?
It just says sacrifices, so I'm not
okay. Take that to whatever you may think of sacrifices, I guess.
Another one in Andrea mythology describes a puma eating the sun, and the only way to prevent the sun from dying, they must scare the puma by screams of children, specifically, and cries of animals are the only ways to scare it. Like, why are there so many just, like, loud noises and creatures?
I know, right? Isn't that weird?
And it seems like the creatures are kind of, like, prevalent with whatever area, like Chinese and dragons, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Chinese love their dragons.
In Norse mythology, it was believed that Loki gets revenge for being chained by the gods, so he creates these wolf giants, and one of them swallows the sun, and the other one chases the moon.
Interesting.
Yes. And they believe that one of them took a bite out of the sun.
Ah, okay.
And then some cultures would believe it was retaliation from gods, which is where we get into, like, the more interesting beliefs.
Right.
Ancient Greeks believed that the eclipse was a sign the gods were angry with them, and that the sun would abandon Earth if they didn't do something.
Interesting.
The Incas believed that an eclipse was a sign of their sun god Inti's wrath and displeasure. This is a pretty crazy one. The Aztecs believed that the demonic spirits of women who died giving birth would start to afflict illness and death, and that the children would transform into mice. That was a weird one.
That is weird,
They also believed that, like, the lunar eclipse, like, pregnant people had to, like, protect themselves by wearing, like, red sashes, which was interesting.
Wait, what does the red sash do, though, if you have that to protect yourself?
It's supposed to protect them, because you know how, like, the lunar eclipse, it turns the moon red? I think it had the symbolism with that. It didn't really say why exactly. But I thought it was interesting that not just, like, solar eclipses, the lunar eclipses had to do with a lot of mythology stuff. So actually, the Irish had, they recorded eclipses in stone. They were, like, from 5,000 years ago. Like, they had stone drawings of, like, what happened during the eclipse. And obviously that's just some examples of what people, but we should, now we're going to get into the interesting things, the conspiracy theories about the most recent eclipse, because they were interesting is all I'll say. I'm sure you've seen some stuff too online about it. But Alex Jones, he's been going on some crazy stuff about it. He believed that NASA was using the solar eclipse to perform an ancient Egyptian ritual.
Okay.
And they also said because that there are some of the cities that were under the line of the eclipse, there was one named Jonah in Texas, and it was like Jonah Ark. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
That whole story. So they said that synchronous, or like, because it was over that city and meant that the rapture was coming, and that we were being floated by in the ark. There was also a Rapture, Indiana, which is why they believe that too. It's in the same line. That one was popular.
Yep.
Oh, did you did you feel weird after the eclipse?
Like, no, but I heard people are talking about the sickness thing. No, I was fine.
Me and my friend who watched together, we both felt really nauseated and sick the day after, like yesterday.
Really?
And she still feels sick. Like I said, I don't know, but I felt pretty bad yesterday. I feel better today, but and then there's a lot of people who said you had to like stock up on food for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, I heard about that crazy stuff.
What?
Yeah, no.
And like cell phone disruption, I guess makes sense because there's so many people and
high volume of people in certain areas. Yeah, but I didn't have any problems with you.
No, and then I think it's funny. All these people went to go see it at Niagara Falls, and then it was cloudy the entire time.
I know. God, could you imagine? I would have been so.
Why would you? I'm glad we didn't travel that far, and we had clear skies. Did you guys have clear skies also?
Oh yeah. Skies are beautifully clear, yeah.
Everyone hated on Ohio. They were like, "Oh, Ohio's weather coverage is always bad," but we didn't have any.
We got the good weather, yeah. So, haha.
All these people didn't come here. They should have came to Ohio.
I know. Probably a good thing they didn't. We already had enough of traffic issues as it was around here.
Like we had a lot.
You couldn't go in my little podunk town. You could not go anywhere because there were so many people here.
I think people were flooding in because you were like right there.
They were because we were the closest. We were like one of the first cities you hit. Before, you know what I mean? Before you hit in the totality area, because then after us, it would have been like Ross and then Oxford and then Fairfield and Hamilton were in it too. So we were like the first one you hit.
That's pretty wild.
So everybody came here. And then it didn't help that the news channels and the radio stations were like, yeah, go to Harrison, Ohio today because they're in the path of totality. And
I think it's because you guys were on the edge. You were the closest on the edge for a lot of people. Yeah, that was it.
You could get it so quick. Yeah, they could get here quickest.
Well, they thought, but everyone had the same idea.
Yeah, right. Oh my God, yeah. Our expressway was it was at a stand. It was like Atlanta during rush hour. It was bad.
Everyone was traveling to like Marysville, Ohio. So like 33 was completely backed up. Or like it was very because Leah was trying to get home from work.
I was gonna say, did she go into work that day or did she stay home?
She didn't. She got off early, and it took her like forever to get home because everyone was trying to go there. I'm like, man, that must suck because she works in like Columbus, so she has to make that commute.
Ooh, yeah, that makes it even longer.
Yeah, I thought about going out there because her house was in it too, but I was like, I'll just go the closest house to me, which is my friend's. Like, they were barely on it, but who cares? It's all about just experiencing it. It was only like a minute or something, but I was like, you know what? I know some places got like the 3 minutes if you were closer in the middle, but I mean, and at this point, anything was good, you know?
Yep, I agree.
All right, well, what are you discussing
today?
All right,
so I have something to talk about today. We're going to talk about the great meat shower of Kentucky.
Oh boy.
Yeah, this is crazy. I've never ever heard of this. And I lived in Kentucky for like 25 years. I've never heard this story ever. So it was a cool March day in Kentucky in 1876. Okay. A farmer's wife by the name of Mary Crouch was making soap on her porch when suddenly chunks of meat fell from the sky and littered her farm and several other farms in the tiny little town of Olympia Springs, Kentucky. Now, the crazy thing was that the townspeople decided and try the meat that had fallen from the sky.
Ew.
Now,
why would you eat meat that comes out of the sky?
Thank you. That's what I want to know. Ooh, God, you don't know what kind of diseases are on that meat. You don't know where the meat came from. You don't even know if it's meat at this point. But yeah, so those two crazy guys came over to her farm, and it wasn't like the same day because, you know, this is back in the 1800s. So word travels slowly then, you know, it took them like a day or a day and a half to get there. So the meat was starting to get nasty and, you know, stale and disgusting, starting to go rancid. So like I said, a couple of these guys decided to try this meat. So the event had perplexed scientists. This event had perplexed scientists for over 100 years because The event only happened in this small town in Kentucky, and it covered a very small area. At the time of the meat rain, locals were puzzled about what could have caused it. People were guessing what kind of meat it was, and guesses ranged from mutton to bear meat. Now, I guess because there's a lot of bears in the air, which I thought was interesting. Now, some of the neighbors, like I said, were brave enough to try the meat. This meat was everywhere on her farm. It was like stuck to a fence post. It was, laying on the ground, and it hung, and laid on the ground. And some of the largest pieces of meat that they found were 4 inches wide and 4 inches long, which is kind of crazy. That's a pretty, big piece of meat to be falling from the sky. And it's not like, they were tiny little pieces of meat. So samples of the meat were taken and were sent off for testing. Scientists found that the samples were made up of different types of animal cartilages, and it had pieces of lung and other muscle tissue were found in the chunks of meat that they had. They even, there was a piece of meat that got preserved, and it is still around today. And it's actually in the College of Transylvania in Kentucky. You can go down there, and they have it on display in one of their museums there. They had these chunks of meat in that, and they were trying to figure it out, out how this happened or why did this happen. So one person originally thought it was not meat, but a type of bacteria called Gnostic, which is like a gelatinous bacteria. And basically what happens is this Gnostic will float around and swells up into the air. And when the rain clouds get really heavy, it falls down with the rain, and it becomes this like clear gelatinous oozy type stuff that falls down and lands on the grass and on trees and stuff. And so some of the nicknames for this Gnostic, other than, Gnostic, is witch's butter and star jelly. And if you look this stuff up, it's pretty crazy what this stuff is. It's really weird. But the problem with that theory was that because on the day that this happened, when the when the meat fell from the sky, it was actually a clear day. Nothing had, no type of weather had happened that day. There was no clouds in the sky or anything. So in order, like I had told you before, for the Gnostic to be able to have happened, it comes down with rain. And since there was no rain, there was no way that it could be Gnostic. Some other people theorized, because of where this is Kentucky, which, by the way, this where this town is actually on your way to the Red River Gorge.
Really?
Yeah, I know, which I thought was interesting. So there are mountains around this area, correct? So they were theorizing that there are tornadoes that happen in that particular area of Kentucky quite frequently. And the running theory was that, well, maybe a funnel cloud picked up the meat, you know what I mean? And you know how sometimes the funnel clouds will like skip or they dissipate quickly? And they think maybe it dissipated quickly and the meat fell from this funnel cloud, which is kind of weird if you really think. I mean, I don't know if that holds water or not, but that's one of the theories that was floating around. Now, so it wasn't until many years later that a long overlooked explanation from a scientist in Kentucky that we finally got the answer as to what might have this meat, where it came from and why it happened on that day. So the answer that most people are going with, or what most people theorize happened, is actually vulture vomit. So the theory, think about this, okay? So, yes. So in Kentucky, there are 2 types of vultures that are found in this particular area of Kentucky. So meat is heavy, right? So when vultures, which are carnivores and they eat, they eat all kinds of dead stuff all the time. So when they eat the dead meat, in order for them to take off quickly, you can't have this heavy meat sitting in your body. Remember, their bones are very brittle. They're shallow on the, hollow so they can fly. Well, what they'll do is if they've eaten, a lot of meat and it's sitting, it's making them way heavier, they'll throw up the extra meat so they can get off the ground. And vultures usually will not vomit from feeling sick. So this wasn't because, oh golly gee, I ate too much food, now I'm going to puke it back up, like some animals will overeat. It was because they didn't, like they're supposed to, after they eat, vultures will usually sit for a while. That's why when you look on the side of the road and you see, the big turkey vultures and that hanging out near dead carcasses and stuff, and they're eating them and that, they sit for a while there. I'm sure you've noticed this. And that's why, because they're trying to let the food digest. Now, keep in mind also that the vulture stomach is basically made of acid. So as soon as the food hits their stomach, it's already starting to be, disintegrate and be torn up. So vultures do have a tendency to gorge themselves when they eat because they really don't know when their next meal is going to come. So when they see a dead cow or something, they're going to go in and start eating on it because they don't know where their next meal's coming from. So this means that and like I said, they have to sit after they eat. But if something startles them, people have witnessed this, then they'll hurry up and they'll take off suddenly, but they'll be so heavy that they can't fly, too high up. So then they start vomiting. So the working theory for this whole meat rain thing is that on the day that this happened, there was a group of vultures flying together. Now, this part I'm having a hard time buying. Okay, so they're trying to say, and it had been a lot of vultures for the amount of meat that came on this lady's property. So this group of vultures was flying, and they were startled. So they hurried up, they took off, and having just eaten and not having time to digest it properly by sitting around waiting for their stomach acid to break it all up, they caused them to vomit, and that's where this meat came from the sky. Also, the state that the meat was in that fell, and the kind of tissue that they found in it makes sense for it to have been, makes sense that it was from a vulture's diet. Oh. Like, the way the meat had started to be decomposed or whatever was from the acidity in the vulture. So the meat that fell that day did not look like it, and they said the meat that had been fallen, because they did get a bunch of samples, they said that it did not look like it had been run through like a meat grinder or a slicer, like, normal meat would look. And it was in different sized pieces, and some of the pieces were even torn. So if we think about this, when the bird's eating, they tear into the animal. So you're going to have different sizes. It's not going to be all one uniform size. Because when you go to the butcher or whatever and you have them slice meat, it's usually uniformly sliced. So this honestly sounds like something out of a horror movie, but the most horrifying thing about the whole thing is that those two guys ate that meat.
Is so gross. Why would
Isn't that disgusting?
Random meat you found on the ground that rained.
I don't know, right? I know. Like, I would be worried that the aliens are trying to kill us, so they're just throwing, dead carcasses out of the UFOs for us to eat. Or it could be some type of science experiment. I mean, you don't know, right? I mean, we don't know where they came from. So the meat shower is still shrouded in mystery today but most people go along with the vomit theory of the vultures, is what most people. But like I said, till this day today, people are still on the fence about what it really was that happened, that this meat fell from the sky.
It's weird.
I know. It's very weird and crazy. And I just can't get over the fact that somebody just picked up random pieces of meat that had fallen from the sky and ate it. Oh. But anyway. So people, when you're walking outside and all of a sudden it rains some weird thing, and it doesn't have to be vultures. I've read that there have been times when spiders have rained from the sky. And let me tell you, if there are spiders raining from the sky, I will be screaming and running to my house. There have been fish that have fallen from the sky, and I know people have heard these stories before. Like, there's a tornado in like one part of like a state or nearby, and they'll pick up like frogs or fish, and then the funnel cloud moves on and it passes. It doesn't keep going in a direct path. It'll bounce up and then comes back down, and then the next place it lands, it just lets go of all the stuff that was in there, and you get like all these frogs and fish and stuff everywhere. But the whole meat thing is like the craziest one I've come across or seen or reported in history. And that was like one of the few and only times that ever happened.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like something unique.
Right. Would not want to experience that. I don't know about you. That is not on my list of things to do in 2024.
Yeah, that's definitely not. I would like to experience.
Right? Oh. Yeah.
Well, anyways, anything else you got for us today?
No, I think we covered it all today. I think we're good for a while.
Yeah. All right, well, if you enjoyed our podcast today, follow us on Instagram at Two Scaredy Cats Podcast, and please be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It really helps the show get discovered. And tune in 2 weeks for a new episode. And to all our scaredy cats and kittens out there, remember, curiosity didn't kill these two scaredy cats. Neither did the sun, because we didn't stare in it directly.